Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Case for Construction Culture podcast, balancing safety and profitability. I'm here with Kevin Hildebrandt, um, VP of Risk Management for Miron Construction. Welcome, Kevin.
Happy to be here.
Myron is out of Neenah, Wisconsin, and I first met Kevin with a customer of mine in Wisconsin where he was coming to give a tough message. And I watched him use a lot of skill with how he talked to their partner, my customer, their partner in business, about some things that weren't going super great with safety. And I watched Kevin and his associate come there and really deliver some strong messaging. So I'm happy to talk with you, Kevin, about safety, about managing risk for a major construction company like Myron, which I used to sell diamond blades to a long, long time ago. And you can see I got my Badgers red on today for you, Kevin, showing a little love. Not the Packers green, no Packers green today, Kevin, just the Badgers red. I have some family that went to school down there.
Well, one out of two ain't bad, I guess.
So what are you excited about, Kevin? The year is wrapping up now in the 2026. What's on your plate for exciting, for hopeful things with risk, with safety at Myron?
So, actually, I wouldn't say just risk. I would say the industry wide, right? I think
Risk.
it's industry wide that have the excitement. And it's
Yeah.
really about a couple of things. Actually, four or five things. The number of young people coming into our industry is incredible. I love it.
Hmm.
It's a good opportunity. It's something that historically, first of all, has not happened, right? We have
Uh-huh.
not attracted, for probably the
Uh-huh.
last 25 years, we've not attracted a lot of young people in the industry. And now you go to the apprenticeship classes, which I do spend some time in those classes, teaching some courses. It's amazing the number of young people we have in there. And also the youth apprenticeship programs that are going on throughout, at least in my area that I operate in. It's very encouraging for the industry, for the future. I find that to be a great thing.
Yeah.
I also am very excited about the quality of young leaders coming up in the industry. It's going to take time, right? There's a lot of young
Yeah.
people who are entered the industry and have done a great job, and they're becoming great future leaders. I'm excited about that.
Mm.
What else am I excited about? I'm really also excited how the people in the field, the tradespeople, are welcoming the young people in the industry. Um,
Uh-huh.
I don't think that was always the case when you had a new person come in, right? Stay out of my territory. I'm not going to teach you too much because of
Yeah.
fear of a job, all those kinds
Yeah.
of things. To see the young people being welcomed in, I think is an awesome situation.
Hmm.
Another one that I'm very excited about is the number, along with young people, is the number of females entering the industry. I think we're
Yes.
at a point that we understand that we need as many highly skilled people as we can. Frankly, I don't care what gender, race, anything like that.
Yeah.
Bring those high quality people in, and to see young females coming in the industry is an awesome thing.
Yes.
And I think the overall professionalism within our industry is changing as well. You see a lot more professionalism at all levels, from the executive leadership down to the newest hire, and how we are expected to conduct ourselves in this business is very promising. We have a long way to go. We've covered a lot of territory, but there's a lot more to be covered yet. So when you look at the professionalism, I think that impacts the ultimate safety as well. So those are some things that I'm very excited about.
I love it, and I love your broad view, Kevin. You certainly put many years into the business. You know the industry. You work across the region, and you're tapped into a lot of what's happening in Wisconsin and beyond. And I love your perspective, and I think you're spot on. Do you know Gandhi said that women were better communicators than men? Did you know that he was a firm believer in having a mix of different genders and mix of different economic levels on city councils and governmental bodies, and he was a big fan of bringing in women and even though I believe 89% of the industry is still male, I think it's going to that number may be old by now, but I'm sure in 5 or 10 years that number's going to look very different, don't you think?
Hopefully it does, right?
Yeah.
Um, Again, you bring people who have the skills and you treat them well, they don't have the skills, you have the right personality, and you develop
Yep.
those skills for that individual, you treat him or her well. Boy, the sky's the limit for anybody who is, in that environment.
Yep. Amen to that. So what are some of the challenges, Kevin, either in the industry or there at Miron? What do you think are some of the big challenges? I know I thought you might say something about mental health, suicide prevention. I don't know if that's exciting to me, how much is going on with that. But what are some of the challenges that you see either within risk management or within the business of construction, or maybe how risk and business are related? Because that's really what this podcast is about. It's about balancing safety and profitability through the lens of culture. What do you see that's a challenge with all of that? I know that's a huge question, but what do you?
Yeah, yeah. So you mentioned mental health. That is definitely an issue that is here, and I'm glad that it has been brought to the forefront in the last probably 4 or 5 years. It needed to be brought forward many years ago, but you cannot turn back the hands of time. But I'm glad we're
Yeah,
talking about it. And
yeah,
that's coming from a parent who has a child who struggles with mental health, but
yes,
it's very promising to see that it is not a taboo subject anymore. So yeah,
yeah,
that's definitely a challenge in our business. And I think most of us understand that construction and some of the agriculture and the wood processing industries have a very high rate of mental health issues that they're contending with. But the
yeah,
other things I would jump out and say is finding qualified people, right? Especially on the risk side of the business. Now, this one and the next one will go probably a little bit against what I just got saying with what I'm happy and what I'm excited about, right?
yeah.
But finding qualified people who are interested and passionate about the safety field, because you don't have a lot of universities that are promoting or that have uh, let's say risk management or safety programs. So I think that's one of the
Mhm.
things that we struggle with. We just don't have a lot of um, a lot of risk managers and safety managers available out in the industry right now. We just don't,
Uh-huh.
with all the economy still booming at some level in many areas. A lot of these big mega projects are taking up many of the
Yeah.
safety risk managers that are out there. So finding people, qualified people, is a challenge. Now, how do you address it, right? What I start to do is look at the individual themselves. Um, okay, you have the right characteristics, you have the right qualities, you might have not have the skills. I'll give you the skills, I'll train you on the skills.
Mm-hmm.
Bring the right personality, bring the right disposition,
Mm-hmm.
bring the right drive and passion to the table. The skills will teach you, right? So that's
Mm-hmm.
just how we've had to start to address that issue. I
Yeah.
think another challenge that I have seen over the last couple of years, and probably the last 5 years in particular, as society changes, how people embrace expectations, both from setting expectations as well as from living up to those expectations. Um, you know, we have expectations, and then of course, if you don't achieve those expectations, there's consequences for everything in life, right? There's negative consequences, positive consequences.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I've seen, and maybe it's just that I'm getting a little older, and sometimes it's some sometimes I just see that people don't want to accept those consequences. We find oftentimes, even as leaders, we find excuses as to why expectations were not met. So those are probably the two areas that I really look at: as the qualified people, and then laying out and living up to having people live up to well-defined expectations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as Stephen Covey taught us years ago, frustration is a function of expectations. So when the
Yeah.
expectations aren't met, you increase your frustration and you increase your interpersonal challenges on the job site. Um, we're gonna. I'd love to just move into, I hear the challenges. I want to make sure I hear the challenges, especially the finding qualified workers. I hear this everywhere. And I get that it sounds like you're speaking out of two sides of your mouth, but I know you're not. There are a bunch of people coming in, but not always qualified, not always maybe motivated, and with some different values. I thought you might also say that, Kevin. There's definitely, we can overplay the generational differences, but they're real. They are real. It's just, right? The stereotypes are true for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
That most young people have a different work ethic. They want Fridays off. They
Yeah,
want to
absolutely. Which I never would have
go.
thought of as a young person as in the industry, right? Friday's off. I mean, yeah, we'll be done at 5 o'clock as opposed to 6 o'clock on Friday night, right?
Yeah,
That was a cool
yeah,
deal. But yeah, I mean, I think as time goes by, society changes and people change in that society. Well, probably the society changes because the people change, or maybe
yeah.
they go hand in hand. I don't know, but definitely things change over the course of time.
How about, do you see any, speaking of generational, do you still see because I see this regularly, a minority of your workers being older and old school? And I don't know if your culture has this struggle or if you see it with other companies where you guys collaborate, but the I'd say 10 to 20% of our older than 50 workers are still pretty solidly old school. Some of them still raise their voice. Some of them still criticize and demean people publicly. Do you see that in the industry, and is that an
You
issue?
see
And
that a little bit. Yeah, I think we still see that a little bit, but I feel very fortunate here at Myron, right? That
uh-huh.
is not how our organization, that's not how our culture, driven by
Yeah,
our ownership, is
yeah,
built. So
yeah,
that sort of behavior is it's addressed. How's that?
yeah,
Um, and
yeah,
we work really hard to make it a welcoming environment for everybody.
yeah,
But the fact is, it's still out there. And
yeah. It
when it's
is.
brought to the table, when it's brought forward, we have to address it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's not productive, it's not healthy for the organization, it's not healthy for the project sites to operate with that mentality. So yeah,
yeah,
it's out there, but we continue to change it. If I look today compared to 15 years ago, 10 years ago, I think both internally here at Myron, but also as an industry, we've come a long ways.
yeah.
As I said
So,
earlier, as it relates to behaviors and professionalism, right? A lot of weight, a lot of miles to go yet. We have a lot of room for
yeah,
improvement, but we're
yeah.
on the right track.
No, I like your positive attitude, Kevin. I love how you frame things. I think you're really a skillful communicator. And you mentioned culture there, and I want to switch to that topic because it's this
Yeah.
giant word that's been batted around now for at least the last decade in the literature and places where I work and learn and listen. How do you define culture in the context of risk or construction? What is this animal? What are some of the most important aspects you see in building this culture you've referred to at Myron or anywhere where you've worked?
Yeah. So how would I define culture, right? I think culture is, I mean, and I did not come up with this term. I did not come up with this definition. It's something I've seen and something I
Yep.
really embrace. It's what people do when no one is looking.
Yeah.
Um, when
Yep.
no one's watching, how are the members of that population conducting themselves? What do
Yep.
they do? And much again comes down to, from my opinion and my experience, is what executive leadership has set up, how they've developed it, what they expect from people, how they're
Yep.
holding people accountable to it, how
Yep.
they treat people, and when they walk away, what's happening? Or when no one else is around except for that one individual, how is he or she performing their functions?
Uh-huh.
Are they doing it right? If they are doing it correctly, well, that tells you probably have a pretty good culture. If you see that over and over again, that does mean you have a good culture, as opposed to just having it one time, because it might be that person who's really dedicated. But if it's things are being done like they're supposed to be done, which is,
Yeah.
in Iron, we call it SQP, safety, quality, production.
Yep.
If they're done with that in mind, I think you have a great culture. But that's how I define culture is what people do when no one's looking.
I love it. I love it. Somebody once said it's what's culture? Oh, it's the way things are around here, right? It's and I think it is set by the leaders, and it is enforced or not enforced by the leaders, and eventually it pervades the whole culture if people work at it. You gotta consciously work at it. I don't think it
Yeah,
accidentally happens, but you guys at Myron clearly have worked at it because I've been around you guys for a while now, and um, understand you guys work really hard to have a very professional culture. And you're
yeah,
not perfect, like nobody
yeah,
is, but you guys have set a pretty high bar. Um, and in terms of culture and in influencing safety outcomes, Kevin, what are you doing to either train people or prepare people? And I don't mean like, do you do OSHA 30? I mean, that's a minimum to me. You got to train people in the technical aspects, and that's a piece of it. It's an important piece of it for sure. But what else are you doing to influence either behavior or culture that leads to these great outcomes and great mod rates and TRIR numbers? What kind of training support do you offer at Miron for that, or what are you thinking about to do that?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things that take place here in my organization here at Miron. One is expectations, right? I use the term expectation probably about 6 times now.
Yeah,
What the
you have.
company, how the company, how our ownership expects us to conduct ourselves and our business. Now, you can't, in my opinion, you can't separate the two, right? How you conduct yourself within the business. And I think that sets the tone, it sets the ship of, a sail, number one. But then specifically, what do we do? Right? It starts off with our ownership saying, this is how we run our business.
Hmm.
And I feel, again, I feel very fortunate to be in an organization that thinks that way. So what are some of the specific training things that we do? But before I go into training, I want to say something about the expectations and our culture as it relates to SQP. We have something called, it's our SQP philosophy, which is safety, quality, production.
Yeah.
That's what our ownership has developed.
Uh-huh.
Here's how they look at it. Safety, you do it without undue risk, and you do it in such a fashion that no one gets hurt and there's no property damage. That is a great company, philosophy and great company that I get to work
Hmm.
for. Then the quality part is you do it one time. You do it not to the level that meets your client's expectations, but exceeds your client's expectations. Because again, this goes back to our culture and our business philosophy the owners have set up. And that is that if it's not done right, we're coming back to do it again. We live here in this community, in the community in which we work, right? We are a
Yeah.
regional based contract. We're not a one and done contractor. 80% of our business comes out of repeat work.
Yeah.
So we cannot and will not have a bad project. If we do something that is not up to the client's expectations or Myron standard, we're doing it again, right? And if we
Hmm.
didn't have money to do it right the first time, how do you think we're going to have money to do it the second time?
Hmm.
So they want safety in this order, safety, quality, and then production is work at a professional production rate, at a
Hmm.
professional pace. And we as a organization, as an individuals can make money and be profitable doing it. So now, specifically as it relates to the training component, you got to back that up with something, right? It just doesn't happen on its own. I think training comes in a lot of different areas, a lot of different formats. It could be a 2-day session. It could be a 3-day session. It could be micro learning in 30 seconds or a minute or just things
Hmm.
that you and I say to
Hmm.
someone else. So we have, for example, our annual summits where we have a field leadership person attend. That's a multiple day event, and we have a lot of cultural training there, or even production training that has the SQP component attached, right? You
Hmm.
just don't talk about how we're going to improve, let's say, a concrete system, right? But how are you going to make it the most efficient by use of SQP? Make it safer, make it higher quality,
Hmm.
and make it from a production standpoint. We've increased our production, our productivity as well. So we have our summits, right? We have that
Hmm.
annual summits. We have the Dale Carnegie classes that all leadership personnel must go through. We have our
Hmm.
own in-house leadership 10 course, which is 10 hours of leadership training that everybody must all leaders must go through. And then you incorporate that into a ongoing, cohort group that meets quarterly as well. So those
Hmm.
things all add up. One in itself is not going to make it happen, but
Hmm.
all those components, whether it's also the simple things like the tip of the day. We have a tip of the day every single morning or every single afternoon that goes out to all the project sites and all the offices. That is shared the next morning at the beginning of the shift at their SQP excellence huddle. And that's part of the excellence huddle. It's a tip of the day. It's got
Interesting.
both
What's an
a
example of a tip of the day? Are they?
well, um, Everyone's different. Every day's different, right? It could be, we got icy conditions. It's let's see. Let me think about what was discussed this morning. Carbon monoxide would be an example. When you're running temporary heaters, you must
Yeah.
have a carbon monoxide monitor in place. If
Yes.
it's, if it's a temporary heating situation, you got to have a carbon monoxide monitor. And how do you order the carbon monoxide monitor? From the yard, and then the document, for tracking the carbon monoxide levels. Those are all little, that's a whole minute and a half discussion, but that's still a learning and training opportunity that has
Hmm.
an SQP component to it, which constantly reinforces your culture that it's not acceptable, that we do not want safety issues. We don't want people to get hurt. We want things done correctly to build quality of life. And we can go, there's just every day we have one. It goes out every single day.
Wow. I'm
So,
hearing multiple levels and a very comprehensive approach. The only thing I didn't hear, because I heard Dale Carnegie, this
mhm.
Leadership 10, the SQP approach, having a cohort that meets quarterly. Who's in the cohort? I was curious. How
all
many
of
and who?
those who Yeah, all those who attended the leadership, this is a follow, Leadership 10 course, right?
Okay.
After you're done with the Leadership 10 hours of leadership training, then
Yeah.
you get put into a cohort, which you meet on a regular basis. And that's just part of the organization. We have very frank discussions within the group, and it's an opportunity to talk to your peers. And, you
Yeah.
know, um,
Is
again,
that
it
for a
doesn't change.
year? Is it for a year, Kevin, or
I went through this probably about 4 years, and I'm still in it. So,
so they go
yeah.
ongoing? They're ongoing
They're
groups.
ongoing. Yeah, it's not just a one and done, right? And one and dones don't really carry a lot of weight, and they don't
They
get you
don't.
very far typically.
No, they
It's
don't.
got to be
No, they
something that's
don't.
sustainable and sustained.
Yes, and even the tip of the day, little micro minute, minute and a half learnings, texts or emails or conversations within safety meetings. I think the thing I didn't hear, do you do one-on-one coaching ever
I didn't talk about that. That's a good point.
or
So
mentorship?
at Myron, no, no, at Myron, what we do is you have something called bi-monthly coaching, where um, the office staff in particular, the yard staff, and now getting into the superintendents, we're required to do bi-monthly coachings where you sit down with your supervisor bi-monthly,
Yeah.
and it's a minimum of a half hour, and it's not an annual review, but rather on a bi-monthly basis. How are you? It's a check-in basically.
Twice a month,
What
right?
can
Or every other month?
bi-month?
Sorry.
I'm sorry, every other month. Every
Every
other
other
month.
month. Yeah.
Every other month, we are required
Six
to sit
times a
down, and
year.
it's
Yeah.
tracked, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Now, like others, like I probably sit down with my supervisor twice every other week. That's just how we are, right?
Sure.
And do a quick
Sure.
check-in, half hour.
Sure.
At a minimum, we sit down every other week, and we do a quick check-in, what's going on, your opportunity, and it's really about the individual employee themselves or team member themselves.
Hmm.
How are you doing? It's a check-in with what is going on in your world. How are you doing? How can we help your life be better here at Myron?
Yeah.
And also, which impacts your personal life.
Man, you're doing so many things right, Kevin. This is not the level I normally get, which you probably know. I mean, I do sometimes get close to this level, but you guys are doing a lot of things right, and it's no
It
surprise.
takes a lot of effort, though. It's everyone working together in the same direction.
Yep, yep. Maybe as a wrap-up question, unless there's one more thing to talk about, I'm wondering if you have a story to share of a time where you initiated a change in the direction of safety or improved culture that either succeeded or failed.
Yeah, I'll go way back. I should say that. I'll go way back to 2006. We were having a lot of strains and sprains within the organization.
Yeah,
And um, I knew we had to do something, right?
yeah,
It was actually impacting at the time our ability to procure work at some level. A lot of
uh-huh,
recordable injuries, right?
yeah,
And I was talking with our insurance carrier, and we had to do something, like I said. And talking with them, we come up with the idea. We'll start a stretching program.
yeah.
Other contractors have done it successfully, and it seemed to have worked for them. So I pitched it. I was asked the ownership if I could come to their ownership meeting or the executive leadership meeting. I was definitely not in the position I am today. And I said I want to discuss something, and they put me on the agenda. They gave me a half hour.
Hmm.
And I kicked out the idea of doing a stretching program. And along with that stretching program, why don't we start at the time we were not doing this, and that was our excellence huddles, which at the time we called, toolbox, not toolbox, we called it pre-task planning, daily pre-task planning,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
I said we should start a stretching program and daily pre-task planning. So everybody starts their shift, their day on the right foot, right?
Hmm.
And And it was a
Hmm.
very interesting conversation. One of the vice presidents at the time made the comment. So I did my spiel. I pitched my idea about the stretching program, and um, this individual spoke up and said, "Okay, Kevin, what happens when it fails?" And my response was,
Huh.
"If it fails, we failed as leaders, right? It's going to fail because we as leaders allow it to fail. That's why it will fail."
Wow.
If we don't allow it to fail, it's not going to fail. And it was interesting from my perspective is we haven't even got to the start line yet, and we're planning for failure. And that really ticked me off at that moment in time. And that was how I responded. I said, if we fail, then we failed as leaders. If we as an organization failed on this idea, if we implement it, then we just failed as leadership. That's all happened, right? And the president of the company at the time, Dave Voss, said, does anybody have any different ideas, any better ideas? And of course, nobody had any better ideas. He goes, put a pilot program together. I want to see what it looks like and let's get started, right? Better than nothing.
Yeah.
So we did that. And after we fully implemented, within the first year, we dropped our strains and sprains by 30%.
Wow.
Now, do I believe, and this was meaningful, and that was just absolutely meaningful. Now, do I truly believe that was a stretching program in and of itself that did it? No. I don't think there's usually a silver bullet like that in anything we do in this
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
Um, oh, and the other funny thing about that is the our General Soup, when he heard the idea that I pitched to the ownership, he went, at the time, he might have been a General Soup. He was definitely a executive, was a field leadership person at the highest level, right?
Hmm.
He went to the ownership and said, "Hey, this is going to cost us $2 million if we implement this. If we
Hmm.
implement this concept, it would cost $2 million." And again, the president of the company at the time says, okay, but what do you want to do about our problem, right? I mean, to have a complaint, to have a rebuttal for something is one thing, but then what's your idea? And of course, there was no idea. Again, keep going forward. So there was a lot of, what do you want to call it? There wasn't a lot of excitement. How's that
Hmm.
about that concept? But like I said
Hmm.
before, within the first year, our strain springs went down by 30% and our actual productivity went up. Now, why is that? Because that was our opportunity to everybody at the beginning of their day, at the beginning of their shift, um, get a plan together. It's all about the planning process.
Hmm.
And who won because of that? Well, probably all of us. We all won. Every migrant employee most certainly won. The company as a whole won. We had fewer injuries. We were much more, I mean, ultimately we were more profitable. I know people complain, and that was part of the issue there is we're going to fight the idea of profitability versus production. Well, how about
Hmm.
and I get that. I understand that. We're in the free enterprise system. You're always going to have that struggle between profitability and production, profitability and safety. And the
Hmm.
reality is, embrace it, right? Injuries
Hmm.
aren't cheap; they're not free by any means. You have fewer injuries, you have fewer losses as a whole, whether bodily or property. You have a higher quality, you get better production rates. We all want, right? And that was a big deal for us to actually go through. Now, again, I consider the stretching program the silver bullet? No, it was a whole bunch of things combined into
Yeah.
one. If I can
Yeah.
take one more minute, I'll give you another example. We about 9 years ago, we started. I was working with our vice president of field operations, and we had struggles between the general soups and the risk personnel. Right,
Hmm.
they still were not on the same sheet of music, and we did not have our SQP philosophy in line yet, or business philosophy in line at that time.
Hmm.
So we started the Bridging the Gap group between the risk managers and our general soups. Get them together and let's start to
Hmm.
understand each other
Hmm.
and figure out how we can make this the most efficient business possible. And that's actually truly where SQP came out of, was the Bridging the Gap through side conversation within the Bridging the Gap. So the
Hmm.
general soups and the safety managers, the risk managers, all going in the same direction. Now
Uh,
you have horsepower and you have a
uh,
multiplying effect.
wow. Those are great stories, Kevin. 30% drop from the stretching, huh? With the sprains and strains on the ankles.
Within the first year, yeah. But again,
That's
I don't consider
amazing.
it all because of stretching. It's a whole bunch of things that play
Yeah,
into it. But it was the stretching was the catalyst for it. You get people
that's
together
right.
before they start working, and yeah, and it sets a mind frame too. You have a mind frame that this company cares enough that they care how I feel,
That's
and
almost more important than the stretching, isn't it? The
yeah,
communication of care, taking the time, and then someone thought it was going to cost 2 million, and
that's
it
what. Yep, that was the number that was
like
thrown out.
that was going to be extra hours, man hours lost or something.
Lost production,
Yeah,
but
that's
we increased production out of it.
isn't that interesting? Boy,
Mhm.
that's a lovely story, and I'm sure it was a heavy lift, I'm sure, to get it all going, Kevin. I'm sure it took some real energy because you shifted the culture on that. You definitely did a cultural shift, and that takes time and energy.
A lot, some sleepless nights, but you just go in with that. This is the right thing to do. This is the right thing to do. Not everyone's going to embrace it. Not everyone's going to be happy about it. But if you make it part of your culture, that's just how we do business, right? Do this
Yeah,
is how we do to function. This is how we as an organization function here at Myron. You want to be part of it? Awesome. If you don't, well, then
yeah,
you can be successful someplace else. But this is our culture. This is who we are.
yeah. Wow. Any final thoughts, Kevin? I really I love how you articulate your points. You're just really you're very skilled. You're really good at framing things. You're really good at articulating with clarity. Any final thoughts from you on these topics?
No.
Anything else you want to say?
No, other than I wish everyone a happy holiday and Merry Christmas and New Year's to come. And I hope everyone continues to build quality of life and again, do the right thing and build a great culture for your folks, wherever you work. I don't care where you work, just make it a great place for people to build their quality of life. We all go up together, we all go down together.
I love it. I love it, and I wish your Packers the best. I was happy you beat the Bears, and hope the rest of the season goes well, Kevin. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
We'll,
Tom.
we'll see you around the bend.